6 years ago, life struck me so hard that I was making and selling samosas from a small stall in Gurgaon. My name is Jonathan Philemon Nitin Brady, and I'm known as Khurafati Nitin on radio. And I've been a radio jockey for more than 17 years now. And I'm here to tell you my story. The story of the time when I hit rock bottom. 6 years ago, it had been 11 years since I first went on air as a radio jockey. And everything was fine. I had a new car, I had a swanky new apartment, I had a lot of friends. Life was good. I was very happy. The contract with the radio station that I was on was about to end. And, I knew that. Once this contract ends, once I'm out of the door, there'll be like 1 million people who want me to work for the radio station. And I'd been, a famous personality on radio. Mujhe laga ki, it's just going to be a piece of cake. But as I say that confidence is good in life, but overconfidence is not good. I started sending feelers through my friends, through my colleagues, my ex-colleagues, my relatives, to different radio stations telling them that, that I'm ready for a change. That yes, I am willing to work for you. I am willing to come and join your organization. But every person that I spoke with, every company that I spoke with, the only thing that they gave me in return was silence. I should have actually understood that this silence was the calm before the storm. My contract got over. I didn't get a job. 2 months later, I was finding it hard to pay my home installments. I didn't get a job. My friends, I spoke with them, asked them to get me a job. I didn't get a job. 4 months down, I had finished my entire savings. I had finished my parents' savings. I didn't get a job. I'd hit rock bottom of my career graph. At 31 years of age, I was getting into what would become the biggest crisis of my life. I remember it was one of these evenings that my mom, dad, my brother, and I was sitting, and because I didn't have a job, I was almost home all the time. And we were sitting and having tea. And my dad asked me, he said, we do understand what you're going through, but what do you want to do? Karna kya hai? And my prompt answer was radio. So they told me, they said, that is correct. You want to do radio. But the fact is you don't have any offers right now. What are you going to do? What else do you want to do? So my mom said, what fascinates you? I said, food. He said, yeah, but eating food is not going to get us money, right? It's not going to be a job, eating food. I said, no, that's not what I mean. I mean, I can cook food. You see, if I wasn't a radio jockey, I would have probably been a great chef because I love cooking. So they said, okay, then, well, if that is it, then why don't you get into it? But the financial condition of the entire house was such that I couldn't have started like a restaurant of my own, right? So we didn't know what to do. And again, we just kept thinking. And then I told them, I said, you know what? Why don't I start small? Because we don't have the resources right now. So I took up a small stall. And, in Hindi, you call it khoka. That's how small it was. And I started making and selling samosas from there. I strongly believe this, that till you don't bruise your knees, you don't realize the importance of the ointment which is kept in the closet. And that ointment in life is your family. All my so-called friends who are friends with me, who would often call me for their parties, RJ Khurafati Nitin, that's my friend, posed with me, they're all disappeared. They were all gone. The only people who stood by me at that time were my family. And I'll come to it, why I'm getting to this point. So my younger brother joined me and he said, I'm going to support you in whatever you're doing. He left whatever he was doing, he was a dancer, model. And he said, I'm going to stand with you. So both of us started working in that small stall and started selling samosas. There were times that people would come into the stall and a few fans would recognize me. So they'd look at me and they'd ask me, like, why are you doing this? And they always had pity in their eyes. But that pity never made me belittle myself. It never shattered me, because that pity was the fuel for my struggle. I knew that I had to come up from here. The only direction I wanted to go from there was up. When you're rock bottom, the only direction you're going is up. And I just wanted to change the way they looked at me. I didn't like the pity in their eyes. As luck would have it, people say that there's a Hindi saying that Bhagwan jab jeta hai to chappad phad ke deta hai. So when when troubles come to you also, this, chapat phar ke troubles aa jate hain. So this entire samosa stall that we started, even that wasn't doing well. We were selling samosas for 5 rupees a piece, right? There was another guy who came into that market and started selling it for 3 rupees. So we lost all our customers. We didn't know what to do. I was in the pits, down on my knees, and frankly speaking, I'm not very proud of saying this, but I was beginning to accept it as the inevitable. This is what was destined. I'm going to be down in the pits, everything's over now. But during this period, what had happened was, a magical thing that had happened was, I had begun an inward journey, a journey within myself. There were times when I would spend hours by myself, meditating, or just with myself. And I realized that if I ever got back on radio, if I ever got a job again, it's not going to be the same. And what it would be, I'm going to tell you. So after 6 months of being jobless, I finally got a call from a radio station, and they said that, we've got an offer for you. Why don't you come and join us? Now, any sane person who's been jobless for 6 months, who's exhausted his own savings, exhausted his parents' savings, what will he do? He'd jump onto the offer, right? You know what my answer was? My answer was, I will come and join you if you let me do my kind of radio. This person must have thought this guy's lost it. But he still was decent enough. He said, what do you mean by your kind of radio? I said, I want to do CSR on radio. He said, CSR? Corporate social responsibility? Are you crazy? That's going to be so boring. But I told him, I said, you know what? This is my personal belief that deep down inside, everyone has a good soul, right? You just need to tap into it. You just need to connect with it. And good deeds, helping people, it's fun because it brings a smile to your face. So I said, I want to do CSR, and they agreed. So they agreed, and I started doing on radio what had never been done before. I started doing corporate social responsibility. The idea was that I thought radio is such a large medium, such a big medium, that if you utilize it well, you can help others. The first initiative that we took up was, there was this guy, actually this girl called me up on my show, and she said that, my brother is languishing in Tihar jail because I didn't have money to submit for my school fee. She was in a government school. And she said, so what he did was, he was walking along the railway tracks, and he picked up a piece of iron from there. And he probably would have thrown it back. Bahut seedha sa aadmi tha, he was a tailor. So he picked it up, and the moment he picked it up, the railway police caught him. And they put charges of stealing on him. And they filed a case against him. He got a sentence. So he had served 3 months of his sentence. Now the quantum of his punishment was being doubled because there was a fine attached to his punishment, and he couldn't pay that. So I thought to myself, I said, you know what? The crime that he committed, he's already languished in jail for that. He deserved it because a crime is a crime, right? So you need to go ahead and, suffer the punishment. But the next 3 months that he would have been in jail would have been because he didn't have the money to pay the fine, and poverty is not a crime. So I went ahead, I paid up his fine, got him out, but that was not it because the fine was a petty fine, right? So I got him out, we rehabilitated him, got him a job. Today, his sister is a graduate. She's already married and she has a child. And he's well settled in his life. This entire initiative sparked something inside me and something inside the radio station that I was working for also. Because I realized that here is this medium, here is a podium where people can come, address people, tell them about their problems. And this city, the city that I live in, I'm so proud of being in Delhi NCR. And I think that's very true for, I think, cities across the world also. Every time you appeal to people and you tell them that someone is in distress, good souls will always come up and help. So I thought, this should just be a start of what I wanted to do. So we went ahead, and the next initiative that I took up was, we got face reconstruction surgeries done for acid attack survivors. They couldn't afford the surgeries, so we got the surgeries done for them. Then a rickshaw puller from Agra came to Delhi, and this is really iconic because what happens is, like, someone sitting in Agra doesn't hear my show, but when he came to Delhi, he was looking for help, and someone told him, one of my fans probably, that there is this guy who keeps helping people. Why don't you go and approach him? So he came to the studio, and he told me that his son, who was a rickshaw puller, his son had a hole in his heart. He had to be operated. He didn't have the money. So I tied up with the hospital and got him his surgery done. Then there was this farmer's son, who, uske pair ke upar se a truck just went over it and he lost one of his legs. And I thought to myself, I said, you know what? Just because he's a farmer's son, just because he cannot afford it, doesn't mean that he's going to be limping the rest of his life. So I got him a high-end prosthetic, and I didn't. Delhi got him a high-end prosthetic because everyone came together. The likes of Virendra Sehwag, all the Indian cricketers came together. We got him a prosthetic which cost 12.5 lakhs in the market. Today, he jogs and he's preparing for a marathon today. A guy who had lost his leg completely. And of course, my favorite, of course, being an initiative that wasn't meant to be an initiative. Many a times on radio, you get calls, and sometimes you don't know how to handle them. This was one such call. There was this gentleman who called me up and he said, Nitin, you know what, my father was, he sounded in distress. He said my father was very unwell and he'd had a seizure, heart attack hua tha unko. And he said that I was taking him in an ambulance to the hospital and they were stuck in a jam. He said it's not that people could not give side. If they wanted, they could have given a side to the ambulance and let the ambulance pass. He said the ambulance siren kept on ringing in my ears and not a soul gave us way. And he said the last I remember of my dad is he was tugging on my shirt, all my buttons broke. He looked at me once in the eye and just said bye, and he was gone forever. I felt like someone had slapped me on my face, right on my face, because I was as much a part of the city as everyone else was in that jam, right? I might not have been there, but he spoke to the city that day. And I thought to myself, I said, we keep saying stuff like Dilli Dil Walo Ki, the place where people with big hearts live. And this is the attitude that we have, that we can't give way to the ambulance. I mean, this is the least we could do. I started a very simple thing. It was not even a campaign. I just started telling people every day in my show, again and again, that if you hear a siren, just move to your left. What happens is, sometimes in our stressful lives, we forget what to do, right? So when you hear an ambulance siren, you don't know what to do. So, you're like deer in the headlights expression, you don't know what to do. Go to the left, go to the right. So I just started making it simple for everyone, that if you hear an ambulance siren, just move to your left, let the ambulance just pass away. Then I called up the ambulance drivers, told them also, try and overtake from the right, don't confuse people. And that started happening. We started getting calls, and that I think was the most life-changing moment in my life, because I got a call from someone who said, you know what, my aunt got saved today. I was taken to AIMS, and she got saved only because of you, because people gave way to the ambulance. And I felt so proud that, here is this medium where if you really used it well, and I believe that, a lot of the electronic media like television, even newspaper, everyone is doing their bit. But I just felt that radio was not doing it. And so I thought this would be a great start. And I'm so proud that, other stations also started doing it, because it is not about an idea that others cannot copy. It's not an idea that shouldn't be copied. It's an idea that everyone should be copying. It's a good deed that everyone should be doing. So that was, okay. So that is what, was going on through my head. So the four most important things I think that I learned in this entire phase of mine that I went through was, 1, your family will be the only one that stands by you through thick and thin. You might realize it later in life, but you will. 2, no matter what religion you follow, no matter who you believe in, spend time with God, meditate every day. Because when you connect with God, you actually connect with yourself, with your own conscience. 3, never get comfortable with what you have. What happens is, the moment we make small goals in life, mujhe ye gaadi chahiye, I want this house. The moment you get it, you think life's, you've achieved everything. But never do that. Never get comfortable with what you have. Because what you have today, you might not have tomorrow. So cherish whatever you have. But remember that it's temporary. What is constant, what remains, is your family. So value them and your relationships. And the most important, the last point, the most important thing that I learned from this, be willing to change. Understand that to move ahead, you'll always need to continuously change and adapt, right? And you'll have to innovate. So what I want you to do is, this is a little bit of a different TED Talk. I want you to become a part of this TED Talk. Before I go, wherever you are, just keep sitting. Just put your hand on your heart, and I want you to take this oath with me. Just say it with me, okay? Put your hand on your heart, please, and say it with me. Change is the key of life. Change is always uncomfortable. Change is inconvenient. Change is difficult. And yet change is what keeps you going. If I need to change, I will change. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. That is the story of my life.